Two animals. That's what Padre Pio kept returning to. Two creatures that most people walk past every single day without a second thought. One guards, the other chooses. And together, they point to something about the spiritual life of a home that most of us have never been taught to see. But here is what's worth asking before we get there. What if the real question isn't whether your home is protected, but whether your home is the kind of place protection is drawn to? Most people ask God for safety as if it was something delivered from the outside, a shield dropped from above. But Padre Pio taught something quietly different, that grace, like light, tends to gather where there is already an opening, that certain spiritual realities are attracted to certain environments, and that two animals in particular have been recognized across centuries of Christian tradition as signs of exactly that kind of environment. Not symbols, not folklore, real observable reflections of something happening in the spiritual atmosphere of a home. What are they? Stay with me, and write in the comments the name of someone whose home you'd like to hold in prayer today. Creation has never been silent. We forget this, not because it stops being true, but because we stop listening. The noise fills in, the days accelerate, and somewhere along the way, the quiet language of the world around us becomes something we simply no longer hear. But the scriptures never forgot. Balaam's donkey was a working animal, unremarkable, load-bearing, the kind of creature you pass without a second glance. And yet, before the prophet could see the angel standing in the road, sword drawn, the donkey already had. She stopped. She turned. She pressed against the wall. When Balaam struck her, she spoke. The animal perceived what the man's own blindness had closed off entirely. Then there is the rooster on the night Peter denied Christ. 3 crows, the most ordinary sound in the ancient world, the kind that belongs to every dawn, every village, every unremarkable morning. And yet that night, in that courtyard, it landed like a verdict. It cut through denial, broke through fear, and moved a grown man to walk out into the dark and weep. Creation is not mute. It never was. It simply waits for us to slow down enough to hear it. Padre Pio understood this not as theology, but as lived experience. He was a man whose decades of prayer and penance had sharpened his perception in ways that most of us can barely imagine. A man who could sense the presence of evil the way you and I sense a change in the weather. He often remarked with a quiet seriousness that unsettled people that animals carry a sensitivity that human beings have gradually allowed to erode. They haven't been dulled by distraction. They haven't been numbed by worry. They are simply present, fully, unguardedly present, to everything their environment contains, including what we can no longer see. This is not superstition. Superstition is assigning magical power to a creature itself, as if the animal were a charm or a talisman. What Padre Pio was pointing to is something far more grounded, the understanding that God's care is woven into the whole of creation, and that if we cultivate the eyes to see it, we catch glimpses of that care in the most ordinary places. So before we speak about these two animals, one question: how present are you really to the world immediately around you? Or has the noise of daily life gradually turned you into someone who moves through creation without ever truly seeing it? The first animal is the dog, and the reaction to that almost always is surprise. People expect something more unusual, something ancient and obscure, but the very ordinariness of the dog is the point. And what Padre Pio observed about this creature goes deeper than most people expect. Dogs have accompanied human beings for longer than recorded history, and throughout the Christian tradition, they carry one consistent spiritual association: vigilance. The Latin word canis shares its root with canere, to sound, to call out, to give voice. A dog announces what it perceives. It warns before the danger is visible. It stands its post without being asked. Saint Dominic's mother, before his birth, dreamed of a dog running with a torch in its mouth, and when the dog released it, the world caught fire. That image became the symbol of the Dominican mission to illuminate the world with truth. The Dominicans were even called Dominicanes, the dogs of the Lord, watchful, vocal, refusing to be silent in the face of darkness. Padre Pio observed this same quality in the dogs he encountered throughout his life at the friary. Animals that reacted to things no one else in the room perceived. animals that calmed precisely when prayer began, or grew restless in the presence of something that defied easy explanation. He was careful about this. He never encouraged anyone to read supernatural significance into every bark, but he was equally clear that dismissing animal behavior as purely mechanical, as mere instinct with no deeper resonance, was its own kind of blindness. There is a family whose story circulates among those familiar with this tradition. A mother, 4 children, a home under the pressure of an extended season of hardship, financial strain, illness, a marriage stretched to its limit. Their dog, normally easy and gentle, had become anxious in the evenings. He circled the living room, pressed close to the children, whimpered softly at nothing visible. It went on for weeks. A priest suggested simply that the family begin praying the rosary together each evening, not as a solution, just as a practice. They began. Clumsily at first, distracted children, a mother trying to hold it together, prayers that felt mechanical before they felt real, but they kept going. And over several weeks something shifted in the home, not suddenly. The way a room changes when someone slowly opens a window, you don't notice the exact moment the air changes, only that at some point it has. The dog settled. He returned to himself. Calm, present, no longer standing guard against something the family couldn't name. Was that the rosary? Was it the change in the family's atmosphere? Less anxiety, more intentionality, more of a sense that they were facing things together rather than alone? Perhaps it's not a question that needs a clean answer. What matters is the pattern. The spiritual weight of a home is real and it affects everything living inside it. If you have a dog, look at him differently today. Not as a guardian in any mystical sense, but as a creature whose attentiveness might sometimes be reflecting something true about the atmosphere you've created, or the one you've allowed to develop by default. But the dog watches from the inside, it stays. It guards what is already there. The second animal does something entirely different. It arrives from the outside, and it only stays if it finds something worth staying for. The swallow. If you've ever lived somewhere swallows nest, you know the image. Their clean, curved flight in the late afternoon light, the small mud nests pressed into eaves or tucked under the lip of a roof, the return year after year to the same place with a consistency that feels almost deliberate. Because it is deliberate. Swallows don't nest just anywhere. They are selective, drawn to places that are stable, calm, free from persistent disturbance, environments where there is enough steadiness to raise their young. Farmers and country people across centuries have noted this. When swallows choose your property, it means something about the place. It means it is grounded, held, safe enough to come back to. The psalmist knew this long before modern ornithology could confirm it. He writes, "Even the swallow has found a home and a nest for herself, where she may lay her young, even your altars, O Lord of hosts." The bird drawn to the altar, the creature that seeks sacred ground not by instinct alone but as if by recognition. Padre Pio spoke with deep conviction about what he called the atmosphere of the home. Not the physical space, the furniture, the walls, the square footage, but what fills the air between those walls. He believed and taught that this atmosphere is shaped by accumulation, by everything spoken in that space, everything chosen there, everything welcomed or quietly excluded over years and decades. A home where anger has been the dominant language, where words wound regularly, where forgiveness is withheld, where prayer has been absent so long it would feel foreign. That home carries weight. You feel it when you walk in. A low-level unease that never fully lifts, a tightness in the air that no amount of rearranging furniture will resolve. Now hold that image and turn it over. Walk into a home where someone prays, where the rosary is said, where a crucifix hangs not as decoration, but as an act of will, where children are blessed before they sleep, and the day begins with some acknowledgement, however brief, that life is received and not merely managed. That home feels different, not necessarily quieter. It might be full of noise, full of children, full of the beautiful disorder of a real family. But beneath the noise there is something that holds. Padre Pio called it peace, and he was precise about what peace actually is. Not the absence of difficulty, but the presence of God in the middle of difficulty. a quality that doesn't depend on circumstances because it doesn't come from circumstances. The swallow in this understanding becomes an image of that peace, a creature that signals by its presence and its faithful return that a place carries something worth coming back to, something settled, something real. He wrote to a spiritual daughter once, "Seek peace and pursue it. Calm your heart first, and then others will find rest near you." The swallow doesn't nest in chaos. It finds the calm center. And in a home where that center is prayer, where the axis of the household is turned toward God, however imperfectly, something like that calm becomes possible. Not by becoming a different family, by becoming more fully the family you already are, pointed in a better direction. And here is where we reach the thing both animals are pointing toward. The truth neither of them can deliver on their own, but that both of them in their different ways reflect. It is not the dog that protects your home. It is not the swallow that brings peace to your walls. It is what you place at the center of your home, what you return to, what you refuse to let go of, what you choose again and again when everything in you would rather choose distraction or despair. That determines the spiritual weight of the place where your family lives. Padre Pio faced things in his cell at San Giovanni Rotondo that most of us will never face. The accounts are documented, examined, taken seriously by people far more skeptical than you or I. Physical attacks, sustained periods of spiritual darkness, confrontations with something that left marks on his body. He didn't dramatize these things, he dealt with them. And when people asked how he endured, his answer never changed. Prayer. Humble, persistent, daily prayer. The devil fears humble prayer more than anything else, he said. Not spectacular prayer, not prayer from someone who has it all together. Humble prayer. The kind that gets said when you're exhausted, when you don't feel anything, when the words feel like they're falling into silence. That kind. What does a protected home look like in practice? It is a home where confession is sought regularly, not out of performance, but out of a genuine desire to keep the soul clear, to not allow unforgiven things to accumulate and harden into barriers between you and God. It is a home where the Eucharist is received worthily, where that encounter is treated as what it is, not reduced to routine. It is a home where the rosary is prayed, imperfectly, with distracted children and interrupted decades and some evenings where nobody wants to but you do it anyway. That kind of rosary. It is a home where holy water is present and used, where the doorways are marked, where the rooms are blessed, where a St. Benedict medal at the entrance makes a quiet declaration about who this threshold belongs to. It is a home where the cross is not hidden. These are not folklore. They are not the spiritual equivalent of a lucky charm. They are the practices of a church that has always understood that human beings are not pure spirits. We are embodied. We need to touch, to see, to mark space with meaning. The spiritual and the physical are not parallel worlds running separately. They meet constantly in the ordinary texture of daily life. When a home is built around these practices, the atmosphere changes. Not dramatically, not overnight, but really. The anxiety that once owned every corner finds that the corners are occupied. The heaviness lifts, day by day, prayer by prayer, small act by small act. And in that kind of home, a dog rests quietly near the children at the end of the day, and swallows find their way back to the eaves each spring. Not because of magic, because of peace. And peace, and the kind Padre Pio spent his life pointing people toward, is always only the presence of God. Before you close this video, I want to ask you something you don't have to answer out loud. When is the last time you walked through your home with intention, not to fix something, not to manage something, but to ask honestly, what is at the center of this place? Not what hangs on the walls. What actually lives in the air here? Have you blessed your children before they sleep? Have you made the sign of the cross over the doorways? Have you opened the Bible in your home this week, not to study, just to let its words be present in the space? These are not heavy demands. They are small acts, and small acts practiced with faith build something over time that no force of will can construct alone. Padre Pio's simplest instruction may also be his most honest. Pray, hope, and don't worry. Not get everything in order first. Not wait until things are better. Pray, hope, don't worry, that is the protected home. Not the home without problems, but the home that faces its problems inside a relationship with God that refuses to be broken. Write your family's name in the comments. Let this community carry them in prayer today. And if this reached someone you know, someone whose home needs a breath of peace right now, send it to them. That act of sharing is itself a small prayer on their behalf. Tonight, before you sleep, walk through each room, make the sign of the cross. Say, in your own words, what you mean by it. Jesus, I trust in you. Heaven hears, and what stands against it retreats. This channel exists for one reason: to bring the faith, the teachings of Padre Pio, and the hope of Christ into every home that needs it. If this message reached your heart today, we ask you from the bottom of ours, leave a like on this video, share it with someone whose home could use a breath of peace right now, and consider becoming a member of this community. Your support doesn't just help us keep going, it is part of this mission. Together, we are a family of faith. Thank you for being here. May Padre Pio intercede for you and for everyone you love.